Guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Valentine Lister and this is the weekly tarot and astrology forecast. So in this forecast, I'm going to give you a little insight into the week. I'm going to start with the astrology transits for the week and then get into a tarot card reading to give you some guidance. And this week is looking to be a very mercurial week indeed. So I will let you know what's poppin'. But before I get into it, I just wanted to let you know about a discount that I'm now offering on readings with me. So I offer astrology birth chart readings and tarot card readings one-on-one live on Zoom. And so right now I'm offering a discount that you can get $20 off your very first reading with me. And you can get that discount by going to my website, valentinelister.com. And when you go and book, make sure to use the discount code $20 to get $20 off your very first reading. This offer is good until December 31st, 2021. If you're not sure whether to book a tarot card reading or birth chart reading, the birth chart reading is going to go over basically your fate or destiny in this life, looking at the overall patterns of your life and what the stars and the gods and goddesses had to say about what was going to be happening in your life to give you some insight on that. And then I go over some basic forecasts and transiting to give you some insight on what might be happening for you in the future coming up. Tarot card readings are more for if you really need specific guidance, like you have a specific question and you're like, what do I do? I want an answer. Tarot card readings are best for getting some guidance to answer, whatever question you have. And if you can't choose, I do offer a combination of both. So without further ado, let's get into the forecast for this week. Okay, so the first transit we have for the week is on Monday, November 1st, and we're having Mercury trining Jupiter, which should be super fun. So this is happening a little after midnight, about 12:14 a.m. if you're on the East Coast in the US, Eastern Standard Time, and you can adjust that depending on where you are in the world. So this is actually a revisit. Mercury was retrograde and now it's direct. So it's going back over this transit. And so if you want some insight in what's going to happen, look back to around September 20th and what was going around that date. So basically, Mercury is trining Jupiter, and a trine is this beautiful aspect where we're getting along, we're feeling good, we're feeling this sense of belonging, connectedness, a sense of meaning, purpose. I'm really feeling held and supported by the universe, and just feeling good overall, and feeling like life has some meaning or purpose. It's a really nice energy, Jupiter energy. And when Mercury and Jupiter get together, it's a really nice aspect because Mercury and Jupiter actually did get along very, very well together. So basically, when Jupiter got tired of hanging out in Mount Olympus and eating ambrosia and just being in heaven and listening to Apollo's lyre that he was playing, he got bored and he came down to Earth to hang out with Mercury, because Mercury was the most entertaining of the gods. He's the most fun. He's the god of trickery and mischief, and he's really doing a lot this week. We're going to get to know Mercury a lot, really well, through our experience this week. So they would get together, they would go on adventures and mischief. So for example, one day they went to a town and they're like, well, we really want to know if the people in this town are treating each other well, are they showing respect and love for each other, things that gods would really like, that they're, treating each other well, have some morals and values. Jupiter is a god of morals and values because he's the supreme god. And so they went to this town, I forget the name, sorry. And so they knocked on all these doors and pretended to be beggars, like poor people, and they were like trying to see if anybody would take them in and help them out. And everybody is like, go away, you bum. Like, you know, we don't have anything here for you. Go bother someone else. Like, no one in the town would accept them except this older couple, Philemon and Baucis. And they were so excited. They invited them in. They were poor. There was like a dish holding up the table. They had like cabbage and a little bit of bacon, like as a dinner for them, but they welcomed them in. They were very jovial, which Jupiter loves. Jupiter loves joviality. And they treated their guests like, you know, like they were kings and queens, you know? Well, just kings. I don't know why I brought in the queens thing. But anyway, so Jupiter and Mercury were like really digging this. They were really feeling it. But they were playing a couple of tricks on them. So Philemon and Baucis were filling up their cups. They used to, you know, drink a lot of wine back then. But the wine had to be watered down because they had very little of it. So as they were pouring it, they noticed that the wine glass kept filling up. And they were like, that's weird. We're not running out of wine. Apparently gods love wine. And so they started getting freaked out because they realized like these are probably supernatural like deities, gods in their house. And so they actually were like, oh my God, we need something better. They ran out to get a goose. But it didn't matter. Mercury and Jupiter were really happy with them. They were like, these people are like just the best. So they said, look outside your window. And they were like, we have a surprise. We flooded the whole town for you, and murdered everybody, killed everybody in the town because they sucked. They didn't let us in. But we're saving you, and we're actually going to make your house like this big temple. And they were like, oh, and they felt really bad for all the people that had been slaughtered. But they were like, of course, we're going to serve you. Like, we're here. We're your people. And the only thing they asked was that they would be together forever because the couple really loved each other and they didn't want to be separated from each other or have their spouse pass away and then the other person was left alone. So Jupiter agreed. He was like, cool, I can do that for you. So they had this big temple. Their house turned into this big temple worshiping Jupiter. And they took care of the temple, and it was a place of worship until they passed away. And they looked at each other on the day they passed away. And they were like, they started turning into trees because apparently the gods love to turn people into trees as an honor. And I'm sure there's a lot of symbolism in that. But anyway, they started to turn into trees, and they turned into the oak and the linden tree. So anytime you see an oak or a linden tree, you could think of Philemon and Baucis. And the tree apparently like one grew out of the other. I don't know if they grow together. I haven't looked into that. But so basically, this Mercury trine Jupiter aspect has a sense of mischievousness, but for a higher purpose. So the energy that we'll experience with Mercury trine Jupiter is this really fun, jovial, like mischievous energy that also is tied into a higher meaning and purpose for us. So I have some examples that I wrote down, just journaling on this for me. And this can really vary for you. There's so many like practical examples. That's why we give examples like in astrology and tarot, like a lot of times of archetypes or examples. But it's really particular to you where it falls in your chart. So it's like basically something that you might be planning. Mercury plans things out like step by step, that really like ties into something like into a group or into like a meaning or purpose or belief. So for example, I planned a sex date with my husband. When you're married for a long time, that's a good idea. So just planning something a little mischievous, putting it into the calendar so that we could have this big experience with grounding ourselves with sexuality. Remember, Jupiter is coming down to earth. Then I had this moment where I was crying and I was so overwhelmed like with love because I was calculating the transits like for astrology and I was like so overcome with emotion and just found it so beautiful that I like broke down into tears. So you might have a moment like that where you're doing some intricate work or you're playing a game or you're in some like business dealing or negotiation, which Mercury rules. Or, you know, just planning things out step by step and just being overwhelmed with emotion of the beauty of it, of the meaning of it. just grocery shopping. I went with my kids and they helped out a lot. So this feeling of togetherness and really being supported, set up my website. And I had that like flu shot craziness, which I talked about a couple weeks with the girls, but we all did it together. So health matters might come into place because Mercury is associated with, in traditional astrology, Hellenistic astrology, the first house. So sometimes it's the body. So sometimes transits with Mercury can represent the body, your temperament, like how you feel subjectively, your personality. And like I did things like help my daughter do laundry. It was her laundry day. She's 9. Yeah, I have them do their laundry. I have 3 kids. But it was getting kind of late, so I helped her out, which normally I would just have her do it herself. But I was like, we're in this together. So things along those lines that have that type of feel. Of course, you may also see these things on a national level, like in the media. Okay, and the next transit that we have is on Tuesday, November 2nd, and that is Mercury square Pluto. So Mercury is doing a lot of legwork. So you're going to feel this around 5:34 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, this again is a revisit of a transit that happened during Mercury retrograde. And what I found was last time with journaling and looking is that we had this like big this like plan or idea that had like a higher meaning or purpose or was very meaningful for us. And then Mercury square Pluto last time might have brought you really deeper into it where you just kind of got lost in what you were doing. So moving into the square, I talked about a little bit about the square last week. A square is of the nature of Mars, so it's a conflict. So again, like the trine from yesterday was more Jupiter, so this sense of belonging and connectedness and getting together. And now we're moving into the square with Pluto, so it's a conflict. So the way that Mercury would approach conflict, you know, he was the god of mischief, god of game playing. He was also the god that could go between realms very easily. And his go-to for like fighting was to just be relaxed, pretend everything was fine, talk his way out of it. If you know any Mercury placements, talking your way out of it or coming up with a plan where you're like 10 steps ahead of the other person and they don't even know what's coming is a very mercurial thing. So like, for example, in Greek mythology, and I might be using the Roman names, but whatever. Anyway, Mercury went to go defend Io, who was a lover of Zeus, or Jupiter or Zeus. And I'm using Mercury, but he could also be Hermes, because Hera didn't like that Io was with Zeus, or Jupiter. So she sent Argus, this like creature with like a million eyes, to watch her and kind of like intimidate her. And so Mercury went and defended Io, and he did that by telling Argus, who was watching her, who Hera had sent. He was telling all of these stories to Argus until Argus fell asleep. And then after Argus fell asleep, he cut his head off. So pretty vicious. So Mercury can be very vicious, but we don't necessarily see Mercury coming. We might hear a lot of information like from a Mercury type source, but we don't really know what Mercury is necessarily up to. He keeps his tricks behind him. And so it's like also a revisit. So this aspect happened, Mercury square Pluto, on September 22nd. So you can kind of go back in your brain and see like what was happening around that time. So for me, like, I was so blown away by the beauty of the transits. And so I was setting up my astrology software, and I was setting up, I believe, working on my website a little bit more, but I was getting lost in like watching videos on how to do use my software. So there was like things I planned to do, and then I just got so wrapped up in learning more about it and coming up with a plan that it took me super deep. So Mercury is all about planning, coming up with a strategy and doing things and going between realms. And so Mercury can be very busy when there's a Mercury transit. You might feel like you're always on the go, especially Mercury will still be in Libra, so an air sign. So you might feel like your mind can't calm down in a way. And this might be and this is going to be it's going to be a conflict with things that are Pluto. So Mercury, it would be fighting in those types of ways that I just talked about, to Pluto. So who is Pluto? He was the god of the underworld. And so he came up, he snatched Persephone, brought her down. So Pluto is associated with death and rebirth in some ways. So is Demeter. And he was also considered a god of the earthly realm. And so he is really intricately tied into the cycles of life. There's a time of death and there's a time of rebirth, and looking at all of these things. And in Hades, right, in the underworlds where Pluto is associated with, in the afterlife, you could experience heaven or hell. And the interesting thing is that Pluto was associated with the earth. So it kind of like, when I read more about it, it makes me think of aspects of karma, of dealing with things that you've done in your life and then having to look at them later. And, if thinking about like getting obsessed with it or overcoming it in some way. And that's where we get like this birth and death and transformation. So in the afterlife, it could be heaven or hell, depending on what you did in this life, and how that comes back to you. And like how you viewed it, how you handled it. Did you handle things in an upright, righteous way, or did you do things that were down and dirty? So Pluto is just going to reveal what's hidden. So when Mercury squares Pluto, like there might be news coming up that's either like, it changes things in some way because it was hidden or unknown. It was in the earth, like hidden. And Mercury is like working with this energy. And so what that ends up looking like is information being revealed for better or worse. So like an example, and so a lot of times these things are small. It might not be like life changing, right? Because life is life. So these transits come along, they give you an idea of what's happening, but it could be small disappointments. Like my daughters wanted to go to this like family fun night, like for school. And so when Mercury squared Pluto, like almost exactly, we got news that it was sold out and they couldn't go. And my kids started crying and they had trouble with that. And so that's like an example of where it might not be so pleasant. But on the other hand, I like went deep into something that I loved, like getting to the bottom of it and really being like pulled into the depths of trying to understand like my astrology software and sharing that information with other people. So basically communication that reveals like this underworld quality, for better or for worse, and that could be both negative and positive. And so this can happen in your life with things getting revealed that have been hidden, or it can be like in the news media or something that's happening in public. Usually it's a combination of both, and it would relate to like games, trickery and mischief, business dealings. It could be communication. It could, because Mercury is in Libra, it could have to do with aspects of justice, legal systems, contracts, negotiations, things along those lines. And we're gonna be in the like balsamic moon phase. And the moon is co-present with Mercury too. So kind of almost a letting go of these things too, of like, in the balsamic phase, we're learning to let things go and the darker aspects of life come out. And things that are unpleasant, like information that's unpleasant could be revealed. Okay, so the next event we have should be pretty exciting. We have the new moon in Scorpio on November 4th, and that's happening about 5:14 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this new moon is going to be interesting. I'm kind of curious to see what's going to be happening for this new moon because it's exactly opposite the planet Uranus. So the new moon phase is a phase where we have a new start in life, like a new chapter in some area of life, in terms of like our fate or fortune or the circumstances that are going to be happening for us occur. And so it's kind of a nice, pleasant time where we can just kind of like dream about the future. We know we're about to deal with some issue in relation to life and another life cycle, but we don't have to deal with it yet. So a lot of people think it's a nice time to like set intentions or think about like dream for the future, things like that. So the interesting thing is that this new moon is in Scorpio. So a moon in Scorpio is considered to be the moon's fall. And basically, when we talk about fall in traditional Hellenistic astrology, it's just that the planet might, there might be things coming along that have to do with misfortunes or things coming along that might seem subjectively bad, but we can always find a way to like work with that energy and the things that we have and have this feeling of that we can handle things no matter what happens. It's just misfortune that like things that like outside happen that might seem not so great. But that doesn't mean we won't be able to handle it well. It doesn't mean that we can't make the best of it. So it just is really talking in terms of things that are going to be happening. And we always have a new moon in Scorpio every year setting this cycle. And usually with the moon in Scorpio, it tends to be delving into matters that are might be super emotional, deep psychological type of stuff. So kind of like dealing with, Scorpio is the feminine sign of Mars. So dealing with our inner battle, internal turmoil, like the things that we struggle with, like inside our head, and the emotions that we struggle with and things that we struggle with, have a tendency to come to the surface with the moon in Scorpio. So it tends to be super emotional. And it was in its fall because the moon in Scorpio is associated with the season of the fall. And so a time where things are dying and we're dealing with like darker issues. The veil is thinner, like we just had Halloween. And so dealing with the darker aspects of life or death, like things like that, that's why the moon was associated with its fall. And anyway, the interesting thing is this moon is very well dignified because Mars is in Scorpio, it's in its home. So it's a well-supported new moon, and it's also opposite Uranus. So Uranus is this planet that like tends to help us liberate in some way by cutting things off and separating us. So if you think of the planet Uranus in mythology, he is like the sign that rules like the air realm, like thoughts and things of the mind, and just having things on a mental or like spiritual level, but not grounded in the body. And then Gaia was like the earth mother, right? And she was very physical and earthy, and had to do with like, water, the water and the earth elements, where Uranus would be more associated with like air and fire. And so Uranus kept shoving Gaia's babies back down into earth because he didn't really want to have like any responsibility for the children that she was bearing. And so we can think of Uranus as not wanting any responsibility. And so it was actually a really liberating moment when Saturn cut him off from Gaia and separated him. And so when a Uranus transit happens, it means that we're cut off from something, we're liberated, and we're not weighed down by responsibility anymore. Now, Uranus and Gaia still like were husband and wife and lived in harmony after that, but they weren't so merged together after that point, after Saturn cut them off. So basically, like when bad things happen to gods, like they're still okay. They don't like get put in jail forever because they're gods. So Uranus was fine. But when a Uranus transit comes through, it's like things happen so fast and all of a sudden you have a breakthrough. And now that could be better or for worse. So like in the past, like I had a Uranus transit come through and had a medical emergency with my daughter, where something got expelled from her body. I don't want to go into like too much detail with that. But it ended up being a good thing because we found out that she had an autoimmune disorder and she didn't have any symptoms. So if that medical emergency hadn't happened, we wouldn't have known about like the disorder she had, which is super easy to treat. She has celiac disease, but Super easy to treat. It was just diet change. But we wouldn't have known that, and it might have affected her growth, all kinds of things. The other thing is I've had breakthroughs where, like with the Uranus transit, like getting my website up and running and getting like my readings started up again. I was kind of like, I know I need to do all this, but couldn't find the energy and motivation. And I had a Uranus transit come through, and all of a sudden I got everything done like that, like quickly. Like I had a breakthrough in my mind about what to do, and everything was like ordered out very simply. And so that may be the experience with this new start. And it's also setting the tone for the cycle of like the next 6 months until we get to the full moon in Scorpio. And we have kind of the fruit of this new moon coming through, because the new moon is more like planting a seed. And then the full moon is like having this fruit like fully blossomed or fully, fully ripe. And so what's setting the tone is that this new moon in Scorpio with Mars like co-present with it is this feeling of liberation or breakthroughs. I think a lot of us have felt really stuck in life. Like, where are we going? I really feel like I have this feeling of like limbo, like, okay, well, what's going on? Like, what's next? And so this new moon should be exciting and should help with that. So really looking forward to it. Okay, so for the next day, we have some energy that I'm liking. We have more Mercury energy for the next 2 days with Venus. So some lovely energy, and they're going to be working and harmonizing together. So on Friday, November 5th, we're going to have Venus ingressing Capricorn at about like 6:45 or so a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then later in the day, we're going to have Mercury ingressing Scorpio at about 6:35 p.m. And so they're coming together. And then tomorrow, I'll talk about a little more. They're going to go into a sextile with each other, a harmonious relationship. Okay, so first we have two signs ingressing with each other after this new moon coming through. So the energy, like, it might be a little bit intense. So the planets like to show you what they're all about, what they can do when they're moving from one sign to the other. So probably Thursday, it's like right before it ingresses, we're really going to feel like Venus in Sagittarius. So you might do things that are like extra reckless and fun, maybe with that new moon and that Uranus liberation the day before it goes into Capricorn. And then when it ingresses into Capricorn, Venus, it's going to show us like, here I am, Venus in Capricorn. So a lot of times things that happen that you'll see will really demonstrate that planet, so that you really like see it and feel it and hear it. So I'll tell you a little bit about Venus in Capricorn, which is like one of my favorites because I have natal Venus in Capricorn and I like this placement. So Venus is the goddess of love, beauty, pleasure, marriage, and fertility. And when she goes into Capricorn, Capricorn is the feminine sign of Saturn, and so it's a very earthy sign. And so Capricorn is associated with the sea goat. We think maybe it's Amalthea who fed Jupiter. But basically, Capricorn is associated with the goat, and it would be associated with like more the Minoan society, which was one of the societies in ancient Greece. And the Minoan society was more of like worshipped in an earthy way, a physical way, like a fertile way. So with Saturn, Saturn is all about restrictions and boundaries. And so it has a very like tribal aspect to it. And with Capricorn, we would be looking at societies that were tribes, right? In the units of like how you would have society, you would have a tribe, which was considered a family. And the way they would worship, like with the goat and with like these like fertile things and with like Amalthea, like where Jupiter went. So basically, like with Amalthea, I'll just tell you a quick bit of the story. So Saturn was like eating all of his babies and kind of snuffing out their life because he's associated with the winter and kind of like restricting life. And so he was like eating all his babies, and Rhea, his wife, was not too happy about it. So she went to her mother Gaia and was like, what do I do? You kind of had this like problem with Uranus, like, what's going to what, like, how should I handle this? So she's like, well, just give him a stone and say it's the baby, and then we'll whisk, Jupiter away, or Zeus. I know I keep switching up the names, but they're kind of synonymous. So they brought him to like this mountainous region to be taken care of by Amalthea, who was a mountain goat. And so what that would have represented is him being in a society that was protective of him, but also communal and family oriented, and would have practiced more of the earthy, like Gaia type of religion, which meant so one of the things was they banged drums and they yelled really loud to protect Jupiter. So in those tribes, they would like bang on drums and make music and do things to intimidate other people because they wanted to protect the tribes. So they wanted to give this like strong front of we can protect ourselves and protect our community and the more vulnerable that are inside that community. And so it basically was like a rock concert. And the fertility part is that they would have had these like ritualistic practices where sexuality would be involved. So maybe like orgiastic practices where people were getting it on and it was just a free for all. So I kind of think of a rock concert. And so I kind of think of Capricorn even like as, like when it's having fun and it's in this Venusian aspect of pleasure, that is kind of like sex, drugs, and rock and roll type aspect to it. So super fun. And you could kind of see this with Capricorn is associated with the devil card in tarot. And so like one of the guys is like set on fire with like sexual desire. And the other one is like wants to eat all of those grapes and beautiful food and have jewels and beautiful things. And that's a very Capricorn energy. So Venus in Capricorn is all about pleasure, but within boundaries, like with people they trust that are very, very close to them. So Venus in Capricorn is this very like pleasurable, earthy energy. It's like, give me good food, give me good sex, give me the good wine and the good food, and let's enjoy it and go crazy. Within bounds, like within your relationship or the relationships that you have. It's a sign that wants respect, that is not going to engage in all of these like sex, drug, and rock and roll practices with just anybody. It's going to be people in their tribe, people who show them respect, show that they can provide for them, show that they're protecting the tribe or you, so to speak. And so, and you like the reason I'm also telling this story is Venus is going to be going retrograde and is going to be in Capricorn until about January 29th. And to me, that's saying that, Venus is like, we're talking about all of these pleasurable activities, but we're also talking about the fact that people need to respect us and show us they mean business and provide for us. So having this solid foundation of, like people showing us not just with words, but with action, that they can protect and provide for us. And then with knowing that, be able to enjoy ourselves and obviously in ourselves, really hold up to our commitments and hold up to the responsibilities in our relationships so that we can let loose and can have a good time with our loved ones and lovers and people we enjoy in our relationships. And also having this like more theme of respect in our relationships, of like Venus in Capricorn is not like, let me just go and have fun or give myself over to anybody. It's like you need to show me respect and prove yourself before that happens. So anyway, I could talk about that all day because I love my Venus in Capricorn placement. And then later, Mercury is ingressing Scorpio again, 6:35 p.m. And so Mercury, the god of mischief, games, so business, negotiations, and really going between realms, is going into Scorpio. And so with the way that like we plan things or strategize, our temperaments, our bodies, we may feel more emotional, more aware of what's going on in our environment. It's kind of like the hunter energy. So I associated it with like Artemis. So really sensing the things in our environment, sensing what we need, and then planning actions based on our senses. and really feeling deeply and really getting so in tuned in our environment, and really having, I'm thinking also with those emotions, being able to discern when to act and when to not, when we're negotiating things or playing games or dealing with like business type things or contracts, or dealing with different elements of life. And so also you might feel, again, a lot of like mental energy and also feel worn out because Mercury is goes, and can go between realms and do everything. And it doesn't know when to stop sometimes. So be careful to not wear yourself out. If you have a lot of busy energy, make sure to express it physically, take walks, listen to music, do something pleasurable, especially with that Venus in Capricorn energy. And again, before Mercury ingresses Scorpio, it's going to be like like kind of from the day before, most of that day, we might see a lot of that Mercury in Libra energy trying to express ourselves. So trying like finalizing things in terms of contracts, negotiations, legal matters, relationships, trying to have a finish to that, and then having this intense Mercury and Scorpio energy. And so it may be more emotional as these planets ingress into Scorpio, and a water sign gets more emotional. We might feel more emotionally intense, which is great because I think we'll be more in tune with ourselves and can take better care of ourselves, be more discerning with our actions. But it can be a little intense emotionally, especially since we had so many planets in like Aquarius and Libra air signs and have been up like in our head a lot. And now the water is helping us be more in tune with our bodies, and get back in touch with ourselves and in touch with our emotions. So that could be a little intense, but it's going to be supported by the more grounded Venus in Capricorn that ingressed earlier. Okay, then last but not least, it's just a continuation of like this Mercury Venus energy, really nice. So Mercury sextiles Venus at about 12:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday, November 6th. And so what do Mercury and Venus do together? Like they plan out really pleasant things. So Mercury is like fun, games, and mischief. And Venus is the goddess of love, pleasure, harmony, sexuality, marriage, fertility. So I'm thinking some pretty pleasurable times, like planning to do pleasurable things related to food, sex, recreation, things that you really find fun to do. So Mercury and Venus are getting together. Anything goes with them. And so it should be a really like pleasant time, and something that can help harmonize things at the end of the week. So if there's energy that has been kind of harsh before that, Mercury and Venus will help to like kind of balance it out a little bit more. And hopefully Venus in Capricorn has a more grounded energy. Will also help Mercury settle down because you might feel, again, a little worn out this week. Go energy. Mercury doesn't know always when to stop. It stays very active. So hopefully it will help with that and you'll enjoy yourself Saturday. All right, so I'm going to pull some cards for the week and see what's going on. So first I just want to get a feel to summarize the energy for the week and what's happening. Okay, so I like this. We have the Lover's energy to kind of like summarize the week. And okay, here's what I love about this, because the Lovers is associated with Gemini, so that's a very Mercury energy. Yeah, and so there should be a lot of pleasurable energy, really feeling that spark again, feeling alive again, and feeling more playfulness. And there's this healing energy of some truths are going to come out. Some truth and healing are going to come out this week. That's going to be helpful for us, helpful for how we feel in our bodies, feeling more vibrant and alive. There's, going to be some dark clouds this week, some harsh energy, some volcanoes erupting of things coming up. But it's like this really fertile ground where we start to feel alive again and reinvigorated. So I'm really liking that energy. And just want to get some general advice for the week, and then I'll look into also mind, body, spirit, how we can support ourselves for this week. Okay. All right. Okay. So we have some big changes coming up. And that's what lately I've been getting more major arcana cards. So I just pulled the moon reversed for this week, and then we had the lovers. So whenever major arcana cards come up, there's some major changes happening this week. But I don't know about you, I can really like go for that because I feel like this energy of really feeling stuck, and can we ever move forward, and can we ever like really come together again? Yeah, so the moon reversed is like this energy of yeah, going inward. Okay, so the moon is associated with Pisces and really going inward and being immersed in our emotions to find the truth in life, and um, really more connected. This dog is popping out, the wild animal self. This week we're really going to get more connected to our wild animal self, especially with like Mercury, Jupiter, fun mischief, Mercury, Pluto, which is getting to the bottom of things. But then that new moon in Scorpio with Uranus, and then Venus in Capricorn, Mercury in Scorpio. It's all this like body energy, getting down into your body, getting grounded, and getting grounded with pleasure. Like the things that ground us are pleasurable. All the things that you've been told that are bad to do, like it's sinful to do in your body, are the things that ground us and are pleasurable. So it's not wrong to do those things. So I mentioned the Minoan culture like earlier, and that there are cultures that were more in tune with the body, more in tune with fertility and the cycles of life and the moon cycles. These things are not bad. However, we have to be in tune with our bodies, not overdo it, consider the health of our bodies, that there's something to take care of and to honor. But in this week, we're going to like be more connected to those pleasures. So really be in tune with yourself, reflect, go within on what you find pleasurable in your body, what you feel like in your emotions, in terms of your sexuality, in terms of what lights you up and helps your body to feel revived, refreshed, and restored, and have that and really be in tune with your energy and reflect on that. So also we're going to go and look at our inner demons, things coming up for us. Now, if you're okay with your inner demons and you frequently visit them, and you know you've done a lot of work to be okay with them, you'll be fine. If you're not, just be prepared for some things that you haven't wanted to deal with come up, and be prepared to deal with them because they're going to be illuminated this week. So just be prepared and really treat your body well. Get in a bath, put some sea salt, go out in nature. I've been getting more into like plant medicine, and the thought is that the plants, and the reason why all these Greek myths, a lot of them are related to people being turned into trees or cows or animals, is because in the ancient days we used to think of nature as holding a spirit or a deity within it, and they were there to give us support. So get a plant, go out in nature somewhere. That can be super helpful. Playing music, loud music. Remember Capricorn, especially Venus in Capricorn, is like loud drums, rock and roll music. If you're not into rock and roll music, play music that really lights up your soul. And that's something that can really help you get grounded. Of course, things like meditation as well, but we want to think more pleasurable, even mischievous type energy to help us get grounded. I'm going to do the outcome and then things to support us. Interesting. So the outcome of this week is getting in touch with, or having, tuning into our relationship with a male figure that is in touch with their emotions, but maybe a little bit removed from like what's happening in life, that maybe may isolate themselves or be pretty quirky or think differently. And so being in touch with someone that helps us to think differently about the way that we do things, and really be okay with that, really being different, really being separate, and that helps us hold up our inner life. Someone, like there's going to be a male figure in our relationships or in the media. Could be someone you see, someone inspires you, or someone you don't even like, that could, that's going to help us be okay, like with our inner weird person and with our passions and our desires, and just be like, this is me. I'm going to say what I think. I'm going to do what I think because I want to be free and I want to be able to express myself. So I'm just pulling some cards. Some cards are popping out and how we can support ourselves even more with our mind, body, and spirit. Also, where we're going to be as far as our minds, body, and spirit. So in our minds, we're going to be maybe caught up with an argument or a disagreement or conflict, or feeling cranky or not energized by a relationship that we have with a young male figure. So this person showed up last week and might have like started conflict. So there's this young male youthful energy that is a problem, and our mind is going to be like consumed with this conflict. So it could be a personal relationship, could always be a relationship at work or school, in your community. It could be someone that you disagree, again, with the media and public when it comes to collective readings. So we're going to be consumed by this person and not feeling it. And maybe there is some combative energy with that new moon and rebelling and pulling away. And we're getting into Mars squaring Saturn, which is going to be coming up and perfecting in a couple of weeks. And so our minds might be consumed with a conflict and like wanting to like kind of like a fight with a person and a conflict, and perhaps wanting to resolve it or wanting to voice what we think and fight, and so that, like, I don't know, we can have some victory, some type of victory in that type of thing, and also be able to express our truth. A lot of us are feeling like we can't express our truth and ourselves, and that's not coming out, and we're really fed up with it. And so this week, that's one of the things that is coming up, but we should be able to harmonize it and come up with a solution and come up with other ways to think about it, especially with this Lovers card and all the Mercury energy this week. And then in our bodies, again, like the pleasure principle, we have the Nine of Cups, and I'll show you these cards after. But we have the Nine of Cups reversed. And so this card is like, we're going to feel more revived and refreshed in our bodies and how we feel, and really feeling more pleasurable. This card is even better when it's reversed, the Nine of Cups. Even though it came up reversed, it's not bad. It's just like going within and having things that are unexpected as far as our bodies go. That's a nice surprise where we're like, oh, I feel better about this. I feel more vital. I feel more connected and in tune with my body. I feel more control or a sense of agency over my body, feeling more pleasure in our bodies. So maybe we'll be doing that sex, drugs, and rock and roll. No drugs, no drugs. I'm just kidding. But I'm not here to judge either. However you want to have fun in a physical, vital sense, as long as you're not putting yourself at risk and you're an adult of age and can make decisions that are legal, you know, whatnot. Like, go for it. Have a little bit of fun. We're supposed to enjoy our lives and experience our lives. So I feel like this is a week where you're going to be feeling that in the body. It's not just going to be like pleasure about how we think about things, but really feeling it physically in your body and feeling supported. And then in our Spirit card, we have the Three of Pentacles reversed. So let me look at this a little bit more. Usually it's productive. Okay, productive energy, that's rebellious. So having this rebellious energy as far as our spirit and being able to express ourselves, and kind of the advice is overall I'm getting is rebelliousness in the way that we do things, but it's going to be a productive type of energy. And we will have blocks, we will have setbacks. We're trying to create a society that works for everybody. But hey, like, I don't know about you, but maybe we could create a society that's actually pleasurable, that we can all enjoy, where we're not fighting all the time, where we don't feel like polarized and, you know, separated from people all of the time. It's super frustrating. I want to feel together again. I want to feel more of a community again. And I'm hoping that's going to happen, right? And so with this Lovers card, this is the energy of we're going to be able to negotiate things in a way that are fun, exciting, that are innovative for everyone and could even involve technology in some way, because cards associated with Mercury, a lot of Mercury energy is innovative, and Mercury was the traditional ruler of technology. And then we have that Uranus transit, which some people associate with like breakthroughs in technology as well. So that would be super cool. Yeah, and this Jupiter energy, interesting. So we have, this is like Gemini, Mercury associated, and this is like a Jupiter, like Pisces association. And so it's like that Mercury Jupiter energy, making plans to help people feel connected and part of a bigger picture of belonging. And like we've suffered enough. We've really suffered enough. I mean, I can't remember a time. It's been, since I was younger, where we all felt like connected as a community, even on a smaller level, like even in a neighborhood where you felt like connected to your community. I mean, I live with my father-in-law, and he used to live in a community that felt super connected, and had people from all walks of life, and found a way to feel like a family, like your community was your family. And in ancient Greek days, that was the feeling, that your town was the family. They had the flame of Hestia in the center because you thought of your town as your family. And so what if we did that? What if we started to think of people that live near us, our neighbors, our towns, our society, as our family, instead of all of these like random strangers that live around us? And even really bringing it back to like talking to your neighbors, getting to know them, making friends with them, make sure that you check on them, that they're okay, that if someone feels excluded, that you make the effort to invite them. Because we had that Jupiter trine Mercury story with Baucis and Philemon, and that was the thing that saved them. That was the thing that saved them in their community, was that they were able to welcome in strangers and treat them like their family. And nobody else did that. And so Jupiter was like, bam, I'm going to flood out this town. You're all dead. It was pretty rough then. And I think that's some wisdom that we can be bringing in for this week of, really treating people like our loved ones, because that really changes the decision making when it comes to our relationships, personal relationships, very personal, up to an entire society. If we really treated someone, we really treated the people close to us, friends, coworkers, bosses, people in school, our leaders, like if we treated people in society like they were our family members, like how different would we treat them? Like, I think of my children, if I treated everyone like my son or daughter, which I try, I try as much as I can, but if I really think of this is somebody's kid, or this could be my kid, how would I treat them? Or if I go, this could be someone's parent, right? And like, how would I treat my parents, like if they were mine, and really going from that perspective, or if they were my brother or they were my sister, and someone I love, like sometimes our relationships aren't so great, but if it was someone I love, how would I treat them? And that could be the healing balm for this energy. But I think we have to get in touch with our rebellious side, our pleasurable energy. I'm getting a lot of like rebelliousness in a really good way, from these cards, and I'll turn the camera around to show you before I end. All right, guys, so here's the cards for this week. So again, this was the summary for the week, advice for the week, the outcome, and then this is mind, body, and spirit. So have a great week, have fun, enjoy yourself, live life, live it up, and I will see you guys next week. If you like this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified for whenever I release a new video every single week.